Hey guys, Procrastination Gaming here and welcome to the channel. So the Lions just lost to the Ravens 44-20, and this is going to be kind of a quick overview of what happened in the game, the way I saw it. That was a very frustrating game to watch as a Lions fan, but honestly I'm not surprised. I've been watching the Lions for a long time. I have been watching this team very closely for a few years, and I definitely was not surprised the way they came out in that first half. This Lions team has consistently not been ready for these big games, and I think a lot of that has to do with the coaching staff. So first off, I want to talk about Matthew Stafford. I've seen a lot of people on Facebook, a lot of people on social media, Instagram, Twitter, taking shots at Matthew Stafford after this game. So I kind of wanted to talk about that. Going into this game, the Baltimore Ravens had the #1 ranked defense in the league versus the pass. And the Lions do not have a running game. The Lions don't have a running back who can make things happen, and they don't have an offensive line that can block very well. So when you take that into account, that makes it a lot harder to throw the ball down the field against the best passing defense in the National Football League. So before you throw up your pitchforks and get pissed off because we just paid Matthew Stafford, you have to stop and think. Try not to let your emotions get the best of you, because it forces you to point your finger at the wrong person. Matthew Stafford in this game completed 24-29 passes, and he had one interception. That was his only bad decision the entire game. I watched the whole game, and when he threw that interception, he was kind of in a position where they needed to get a big play. There was no other way to win this game without getting a big play there, and he just made a bad throw. It came out of his hand wobbly. In the first half of this game, the Lions could not do anything on offense. They came out in that first half running a very predictable, bad offensive game plan. And I have talked about this before on my channel. The Lions have done this in the beginning of every single one of their games. If you look at the game against the Browns are winning in the second half. If you look at the game against the Bears, the Lions didn't start that game very hot on offense. If you look at the game against the Falcons, it's the same story. The Saints is the same story. And after getting down a couple possessions, they allow Matthew Stafford to go in the hurry up. And when Matthew Stafford calls his own plays, this offense moved. And the same thing happened this week. In the third quarter, when we were running that hurry up offense, Matthew Stafford completed 20 passes consecutively without an incompletion. That's insane considering how good this defense has been all year. You're not going to find many quarterbacks in this league that can do that without good blocking. And there were quite a few times this game where Matthew Stafford had a free rusher coming at him with just a 4 or 5 man pass rush. That means one of the offensive linemen just didn't see the guy and he just came right through. You can't have that happen. That is not Matthew Stafford's fault. That is bad coaching. And Golden Tate said it himself after this game. We're very lucky Matthew Stafford has made it this far of the season without getting hurt, because the offensive line is not doing their job. And who can you blame offensive line play on besides the coaches? And if we look at the entirety of Jim Caldwell's time as the Detroit Lions head coach, the Detroit Lions have never been ready for a big game like this. Every single time the Lions have to control their own destiny to make the playoffs, they don't do it. Every single time that they're very close to winning the division, they don't do it. Now here we are at footballdatabase.com. This is basically 2016 season, what happened with the Lions. And as you can see here, last year the Packers had to win 6 games in a row to have a chance at making the playoffs. And all the Lions had to do is win one of the last 3 games, and they would have won the division. And the Lions could not do it. You know why? Because they weren't ready for these games. They did not come out ready. They just did not score enough points in the first half, and they were trying to come back. And that has been the story of the Lions for too long. I may be mistaken, but I think the same exact thing happened in 2014 as well, with us not getting the division lead at the end of the season because we could not win the most important game of the year. And as I stated in my other video, I thought the Lions had to beat the Vikings to make the playoffs. That's because I didn't have faith in this winning the division. I thought we would have to get 11 wins to make the wild card. I didn't think we would win the division at all. Alright, here we are on the DetroitFreePress.com, and basically this is a post from 2016 after the Lions lost the last 3 games of the regular season and missed their chance at getting the division lead. And basically in this press conference, people weren't even interested in the playoff game coming up versus Seattle. They were just asking him if he was going to get fired. And all Caldwell said was, we're going to focus on the next game. And right here, you can see him saying, the most important thing, Caldwell said, my future doesn't matter, coaching. The most important thing for us. So he's basically saying the most important thing for us is to get better at coaching. So basically he's saying he needs to do a better job at coaching, right? And there's no problem with that, right? You want to improve every week, and you want to get better as the season goes on. And obviously as one season progresses to another season, you want to see gradual improvement from one season to another. But obviously, Jim Caldwell has not shown improvement in coaching. We're still having the same problem with not showing up for these big games. Alright, so here we are, still on the DetroitFreePress.com. And as you can see here, after the Vikings game, the game I thought the Lions really had to win to make the playoffs, the most important game of the season, Jim Caldwell said, "Don't count us out just yet, alright? We've got a lot of football yet to play, and you don't know what's going to happen. There's other games that are being played too, and that's a big thing. I'll act like I know the media will paint it as if the sky is falling. The sky is not falling for us. We just have to get ourselves a little bit better and keep moving forward." This is exactly what he said after the game versus the Packers last year. This is exactly what he said after the Falcons game. This is exactly what he said after the Saints game. This is exactly what he said after the Panthers game. We need to get a little bit better. We're working on it. It's preparation. We need to coach better. He says this after every freaking loss, I swear. Okay, and here's another thing about Caldwell. He's not the best game manager. He's actually a pretty bad game manager for a head coach. Here you see, there was a play against the Vikings where basically they had 10 guys on the field, and the Vikings scored a touchdown. And basically, all Caldwell said was, is a communication problem, and didn't say anything else, right? So it's a communication problem. Yeah, that's coaching, right? So he's taking responsibility for the problem. Obviously, he's saying it's a coaching problem. It's his fault. And then a couple days before the game versus the Ravens, Jim Caldwell was quoted saying, "We need to start games faster. That's what we're working on in practice this week. We need to start games faster. We cannot come out and be sluggish on offense and defense. We need to start games faster." And then they started off against the Ravens. I remember the score was at least 0-17 at one point. So I guess my main issue with Caldwell is he keeps saying that we need to start games faster, we need to work on coaching, we need to get better, it's all preparation, execution needs to be there, miscommunications on the sideline. But the problem is this is happening every week. And here we are in the post-game press conference after the Ravens game. This is what Jim Caldwell had to say about starting off slow.
What happened today?
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. I just tell you, I didn't do a very good job. We just didn't do a good job of starting missed field goals, a couple drops here, miscues in scoring territory. We fought our way back in it. The third quarter was a pretty hot quarter for us. I think on defense, we were stopping people. Offense, we were moving the ball, get within one score, and then the bottom falls out again, same thing. I just got to do a better job. Not good enough. Football is a funny thing. It just happens. It's tough to explain sometimes, but one of the things, what the issues are. The issues are you aren't playing well enough. We're not playing well enough. And I'm not. I got to do a better job coaching as well.
You guys have 9 men on the field.
Yeah. Can't tell you anything other than the fact that that's wrong. Should never happen. That's my fault.
Why not take a timeout?
Okay. Like I'm saying, it's my fault. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. My fault. Plain and simple. That's just it.
Alright guys, that's basically kind of what I wanted to point out with this video. I don't think Jim Caldwell is a horrible coach, but I definitely don't think he's a good coach. I think Jim Caldwell, in terms of game management, is one of the worst coaches in the league. That play they were talking about with 9 guys on the field, that can't happen. There also was another play in this game where the Ravens were running a hurry up and the Lions were completely caught out of position. They ran man coverage and nobody was covering the tight end, who literally just ran a seam route and got an easy 15-yard play. And that was in the fourth quarter, I think. Basically what I'm saying is consistently game in and game out, Caldwell has the same excuses for why we're not winning games. Basically he's saying he needs to do a better job of coaching, we need to come out and we need to score more points in the first half, and then he's saying execution, and then he tries to work in his next game approach. And this is why I wanted the Lions to move on from Jim Caldwell last year. I think if the Lions got rid of Caldwell and got a very young coach, I think worst case scenario with this roster we'd probably go 6-10 or 7-9. This isn't a horrible roster. Jim Caldwell is just not doing a great job at coaching. We're just not getting ready for these games. And that's the most important thing about coaching in the NFL. For the most part in the NFL, unless you're Bill Belichick, talent wins out. It's pretty hard to mess up coaching this bad in the NFL, which is why I don't understand how Caldwell keeps having these same issues. So for the entirety of us having Jim Caldwell in Detroit, we've either barely scraped it to the playoffs or narrowly missed the playoffs. And the reason we're not winning those other couple games is because of Jim Caldwell's coaching decisions in game and also their preparation week to week. Because obviously they come into these games not ready. And this is why you have to move on from Jim Caldwell if you ever want to win something. And the only argument I've ever heard for keeping Jim Caldwell is who are you going to replace him with? Well, you think about it this way, before Jim Caldwell got here, we were scraping into the playoffs. We were scraping into the playoffs with Jim Schwartz as well. We were scraping into the playoffs before Jim Schwartz got there. The difference in the NFL, to be a great team in the NFL, you have to have a good coach. And I do not think Jim Caldwell is a good coach. All right, so to wrap things up, the Lions haven't won an important game since Jim Caldwell has started coaching here. And I think if the Lions want to get better, they have to be able to move on from Jim Caldwell. And I know that's going to be taking a step in an unknown direction, but we all know by now what Jim Caldwell is. Jim Caldwell is a very bad game manager, and it doesn't look like he's very good at coaching. And he also has not been getting a team ready for these big games. But hey guys, this is what I think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.